What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. And, folks, I think you guys are in for a treat today. I think this is all going to connect the dots. And once you realize what I'm saying, if I can concisely communicate that to you, I think you'll be amazed, but also at the same time realize that the crisis coming, it's going to be a very large crisis. And I think that most people, if not almost all, um, are very underprepared for what's coming. Even those of us, even myself, who has been researching this and gathering information tidbit by tidbit, um, looking at it, I just there's really no best way on how you can get ready, other than just planning one step at a time, right? Um, but this shouldn't be like a doom and gloom, but more so like, hey, knowing this information, can you share it? Can you use it, right, to prepare yourself and your family, as well as other people that you know, right? So that being said, let's jump into it. So we have the 30-year mortgage bond, 4.6. It's going down. Like I told you, I'm not concerned about movements in the short term. I do believe that these inevitably will march a lot higher. Um, so right now, as it stands, you know, this could go on for a long time, right? And so these movements, this can even come back all the way down to low fours. Would not be surprised if it did so. Mortgage rates coming down as well, 6.27. Now that's almost on par with what we saw early in September, which was already a month ago. So obviously, mortgage rates are coming down. Um, and to move on to our next thing, where I think it's the biggest topic here, and I would highly recommend, if you guys have some time, go and check out Finance Law. Just watch some of his videos. Some of the stuff he says, right, you may not necessarily agree with. There's a lot of doom posting, but if you can find the diamond in the rough, right, he does have some really good posts that I think are very pertinent and relevant, right? And that's, obviously a matter of subjective opinion. However, I think he is hitting this spot on. So before I go to this part, let me discuss this tweet. He said the plan is to retire U.S. Treasuries and take them out of circulation. Steve Keen and Paul get it. Forcing nations to sell them below face value requires a dollar shortage, which will be a deflationary spiral, which will trigger a global insolvency crisis similar to 1929. And they say that these crises only come once in a century, right? So if you can prepare for it, you'll be well equipped. And you look at Warren Buffett, who has $300 billion plus in cash ready to deploy. If we have a deflationary spiral, I want you to tell me, what do you think those $300 billion plus is going to buy him? Yeah, he's going to have a lot of money to distribute. And someone is going to be majority owner of a lot of companies. So now this is where it gets interesting to me. Finance Lot says, I don't think people fully appreciate the genius of it. They caused a massive inflationary cycle as cover for the quickest rate raises in 50 years. And obviously, there's more to the story, right? That interest rate hike also helped save their monetary policy, in the sense of, hey, we got more ammo and ammunition in order to be able to cut rates. But there's multiple angles to this. I don't think there's just one thing. There's multiple, right? And by them being able to cause this inflationary cycle and able to raise their rates, now they're able to create a higher demand for yield. This combined with AI and dollar shortage, it will cause a deflationary depression, allowing them to print and take treasuries out of circulation. So, as the burden for debt or interest, right, to borrow increases, now all of a sudden, if there's people that need to roll over their debts or pay their debts, right, they need, if it's a contract that's based off of dollars, you're going to need dollars in order to still service your debts. And so it's an interesting mechanism, which obviously I'm learning because the bond market is so deep, and all these debts denominated in dollars can, no one really knows how much, how big it is, right? But as everyone, like for example, you hear China is selling treasuries more than any other person, but also they're buying treasuries. But that can be framed in a way of like, oh, they're trying to get out of the dollar, but in reality, no, they're selling U.S. treasuries to get dollars, right? So if everyone is selling U.S. treasuries at fire sale prices, the U.S. will simply buy up all of its own debt with the skyrocketing dollar, right? Because if the dollar is strong, everything else, you can make the argument that the dollar is falling less in comparison to the other currencies, and that can be a major sticking point, right? Cheap dollar is usually good for the globe, for everyone. But when king dollar goes up, that can create a lot of issues. And so, as you can look at it this way, if your interest goes up to pay you for, like, to buy U.S. treasuries, that means the dollar is strong, right? You're getting a high yield for holding cash. And so that creates a strong demand for it. If your interest is low, well, you might as well invest that dollar into assets, right? Why are you going to hold on to something that might not give you a high yield when you can be making more of a return in an asset? And so if everyone is selling their U.S. treasuries, right, because the dollar is strong, well, yeah, like he says here, the U.S. will simply buy up all of its own debt. And if you can't default on your debt because you own most of it, then resetting the cycle of U.S. debt being the most stable and valuable in the world. So it's almost like a debt reset in a sense. And how this all plays out is interesting. But all I know is that from point A to point B, there's going to be a lot of bodies that are going to come up to the surface. And there's going to be a lot of hurt. What that means for the average Joe and Jane is probably going to be worse than what actually happened in the 1930s. And so it's coming up, and we're almost like on the precipice, it feels like, of something of great magnitude. And then people are getting hints, bits and pieces of it all. But how it comes is one thing that's going to be interesting. So, without further ado, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if that made sense, and if you guys are able to kind of understand what I'm trying to explain here. But I would highly recommend checking finance law and digging a little deeper into this. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. And one last thing. If you're worried about your house price, I think that's the last thing you should worry about. However, in the meantime, I do believe that those house prices will be coming down. And so, a lot of people, right now, a lot of house prices are very sticky. Usually what happens when you're coming back down. But eventually everyone realizes, hey, I'd rather have cash from my house because I need it now versus holding on to this house, right? And I think those where the deals are going to be. But like I said, that's probably one of the last things you'll worry about if we enter into one of these scenarios. So thank you for watching. See you in the next episode. Thank you.